Computer Science from Jadavpur University, Kolkata, and BTech in Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering from Electronics and Electrical Communication Engineering from IIT Kharagpur. He was a fellow of Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, Germany, and fellow of the Japan Trust International Foundation. Professor Bandyopadhyay is now a professor in Management Information Systems Group of Indian Institute of Management, Kolkata. He has around 30 years of experience in teaching, research and development in several organizations of international repute, including PricewaterhouseCoopers Limited, Advanced Telecommunication Research Institute, Japan, Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence, Germany, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Bombay, and Jadavpur University. He has more than 90 research publications and has co-authored 3 books. So, with this introduction, I request Professor Bandyopadhyay to come.
Thank you, Shibpur, and welcome and very good morning, everybody. So, I'll just talk about kind of macro view of the entire perspective and from socio-technical perspective. What is that? I'll explain that. But I know that it's a forum for technologists, but to justify my affiliation with Management Institute of Business School, I put the title a kind of socio-technical perspective. Okay, so what I'll explain what is the meaning of this. So, my topic would be on communication, communication technology and changing communication paradigm. Okay. So, we see the interrelationship between them and from the perspective of socio-technical systems. Okay. So, just to motivate you, I'll give just 2 quotations. One is from Einstein, but I know that this is not a quotation of Einstein, because if you search the way, you will find that this is a quotation of Einstein, but this is not of disagreement, and I also personally believe that this is not a quotation of Einstein, but there is some truth in it. This is a half truth, but there is some truth in it. Okay, so you can see here that there are pictures of having coffee with friends and day in a beach or whatever they are doing with friends, enjoying sightseeing or having dinner. And everybody is having a smartphone in his hand, in his or her hand, and doing something else without talking to each other. So that's why the quotation says, I fear that if the technology will surpass our human interaction, the world will have a generation of idiots. Okay. So why I think that it's not a quotation of Einstein? Because first of all, the next generation or today's generation is not at all idiot. They are smarter than us. Okay. And number 2, that it is not surpassing our human interaction. It is basically surpassing the face-to-face interaction, but it's essentially promoting the virtual interaction. Okay. So you cannot say that it's surpassing the interaction or it's surpassed our human interaction. So they must be doing something important. You see that with the mobile phone, they must be doing something important. What that they are doing, that essentially we will try to see in coming 45 minutes, 1 hour of time. And I would say that they are trying to redefine communication. Okay? And there comes the question of changing communication paradigm or paradigm shift. And this is from Steve Jobs. Okay? So this is basically what I mean by socio-technical perspective. So what he says that it's not the tool that you have faith in. Tools are just tools. They work or they don't work. It's people you have faith in or not. Okay. So by socio-technical meaning, what I mean to say is basically simple word. It's basically interaction between the human being and the technology. Okay. So technology is providing us tools. Okay, very some interesting tools. But if we start going on inventing something which nobody wants, then technology has no meaning. Okay. So you have to take care of the people desire or people want, and definitely then the tool and some intelligent tool, people can use it for proper purpose, and then you can redefine the tools. Okay. So as a researcher in computer science and electronics, electronics and electrical or IT or whatever. So our aim would be to design or innovate something which will be essentially smart, but basically making people smarter with that particular tool. So it's not that the people will not use it, but people have to use it and make something important in their life. Okay. So if you look at the definition of communication and the root of the word communication, you will find that the essence or in the root of communication is that there is a sense of being one. Okay? So speaker is attempting to be one with the listener. Okay? So essentially we are exchanging thoughts to stimulate the listener or to make something common, okay, in order to exchange our view so that there is a consensus with my view and the listener's view. Okay, so that's why we exchange the idea. Essentially to be one. Okay? So this is a social interaction. So when I talk about socio-technical perspective in communication domain, communication is inherently social. Okay? So communication is inherently for interacting a community or a group of community. Okay? So without considering the social perspective, you cannot devise technology. So technology has to do this unification or integration of different human individuals to do the communication. So if you really then look this communication and communication device and communication technology from socio-technical perspective, you have to see the interplay between the social system and the technological system. That means the social norms, rules of use and the people's psychology and people behavior, and that is interacting with the technical article. So essentially, there are two schools of thought. One is basically the school of social scientists who believe that necessity is the mother of invention. That means when people need something, the technology will deliver that. Okay? So it is people who are dictating the discovery or the innovation. Whereas we, the technologists, say that, okay, we invent something, we are technologists, and that is basically driving the change. So technology is the cause and societal change is the effect. So these two extreme viewpoint and socio-technical perspective tries to combine these two, and throughout the lecture we find that how these are combined. For example, when internet started, okay, so nobody knows how, to what extent it will impact or affect the human being. Okay? But then with World Wide Web and then Web 2.0 and with the devices and other things. Okay? So gradually there is an interplay between the social system and the technological system, and then finally the technology evolved. So it's not a one-way thing. So next the question is the question of paradigm shifting. Okay? The title of the workshop which we will be discussing in coming 6 days is the changing communication paradigm. So essentially paradigm shift is basically from one conceptual worldview to be replaced by another worldview. Okay? So essentially paradigm shift talked about some significant change in the way we look, we see life. Okay? Some dramatic effect or some dramatic impact on our way of life. Okay? For example, from Coffee House Adda to Google Hangouts. Okay? This is basically a paradigm shift so far as the concept of Adda is concerned. Okay? So if you look in this terms, okay, so and if you look at the history of communication, you will see that the first paradigm shift in communication is of course the printing press. Okay? So because the printing press is essentially what it tries is basically democratizing the information distribution. Okay? Because you see, initially before printing press, the knowledge is basically confined to charts. Okay? To some people who are controlling the knowledge. And when the printing press came, then essentially we are trying to distribute the knowledge in the form of printed book or whatever. And then you have the transfer of power to people, not to the charts or clone, because the knowledge is power, and so printing press enables you to spread the knowledge through the communication of printed material. Okay? So next paradigm shift is essentially on the electronic mass media, where radio and television come. Okay? So radio and television means with the electronic media, you can spread the message to millions of people, okay, at a time. And television, of course, is a multimodal form of communication where you have videos and audio, both combined together, and but basic purpose is the mass communication. So this mass communication and form of entertainment, news and other things virtually change all features, not only American life, this is a quotation from Putnam, essentially changed our life to a great extent. And the third shift essentially World Wide Web and Web 2.2. Web 2.0 is essentially talking about the interaction. Okay? So if you look at Web 2.0, it's essentially saying that, or basically when the internet started, essentially trying to unify the world, okay, together. So there is a saying in Sanskrit that Daiva Kutumbakam, that means Vasudha, the Prithvi, the earth or the world, is our family. So uniting the entire system into one family, and that's basically what Internet and World Wide Web does. And World Wide Web 2.0 is essentially extension of that, which promotes interaction. Okay? Which promotes interaction because now every individual can be producer of information. Okay, so this is the largest shift in communication landscape in the history of mankind, because this is democratization of tools of for self-expression. Okay? So using the tools, we started to express ourselves in a new way. Okay? And this is not in like this mass communication in the previous genre where we have radio and television. This is from mass communication to mass of communicators. When the entire mass is enabled with devices through which they can communicate to each other, they can create information. Okay? And from one-to-many communication in the mass communication paradigm is shift to many-to-many communication. And so it enables individuals to connect to each other in a way we have never seen before, and anytime, anywhere connectivity, worldwide connectivity, share your ideas on high-definition videos and on the go, no boundary and almost free. Okay, so this is basically the starting of the shift. So the characteristic, if you can see, of the new communication paradigm is the reach. Okay, provide the scale and enable anyone to reach a global audience. Okay, it's not like a printing press or not like the mass communication where you need to have some system of your own. Here anyone can contribute and reach the global audience. Accessibility is basically the communication tools that are available. Anyone can use it with little or no cost and with little or no expertise. Okay, and that is essentially we are talking about democratization of tools for self-expression. Then the usability is anyone, as I said, can operate the means of information production. So you can be a producer of information, as we are doing every time we are doing a blog or doing Facebook or doing SMS or whatever we do, we are producing information, and that information anyone can produce that. And recency, almost zero time lag between the communication produced and communication consumed, assuming that the participants from both ways are available. Okay, so wherever your friends are, okay, which is what in remote corner of the globe, anytime you can just get the connectivity. Okay? So in our workshop, we try to see that when this recency gets affected in disaster, for example, recency depends on the communication infrastructure. So when you have a full communication infrastructure, immediately you can connect from any point to any point in the world. But when infrastructure gets disrupted, then this recency is affected, but with DTN or delay-tolerant network, how we can address the problem of recency and how we can make the communication still effective with little data. That's basically the topic of this particular workshop. But here we see that recency is essentially given. So we expect, and we don't expect any delay. We expect that whenever I communicate something and my friend is sitting in New York, he must be able to listen to that. And that's why we do through Skype or through video chat or through whatever things, the immediate accessibility to the listener. Okay, when we are I'm producing information. Okay, so in order to analyze the impact, or in order to analyze the social process while adopting this new technology, okay, so McLuhan proposed a tetra, four dimensions, okay, in order to analyze the impact of technology on the adoption of technology and the social process. Okay. So the four dimensions are enhancement, retrieval, obsolescence and reversal. So what are those things? Okay. So enhancement means suppose you invent some device. Okay. So now you must examine that what solution it provides to previous problem, how it is enhancing your previous problem, solution to your previous problem. Next is the retrieval. Retrieval meaning that the recovery of values of insight previously lost or reloaded. So you are trying to retrieve some of the values in the new technology. Obsolescence is that definitely some previous things getting obsolete, some artifacts, erosion of formerly significant artifacts. And reversal is putting it to the extreme and how it creates further problems. For example, as you are seeing from the lecture of Professor Bandyopadhyay, he's saying that when we are increasing the communication devices and increasing the penetration of communication devices, number of base stations are increasing, and definitely it's creating health hazards because it's all electromagnetic communication, okay, wireless communication. So that is basically reversal. So when we are going on increasing the kind of the particular technological artifact, it creates a bad impact. So these are the 4 dimensions: enhancement, obsolescence, retrieval and reversal. So let's look at this smartphone. Okay. So as you can see, this our topic is that how with smartphone we can redefine the communication. So if you look at the enhancement, what are the things the smartphone enhances? Of course, it's communication. That is the first thing. But communication is not the only thing which smartphone enhances. It enhances a lot of things. For example, travel is just one example. For example, you can plan your travel. You can have your GPS on your smartphone through which you can properly navigate with whether you go to anywhere in the world. Okay, and then you can see the reviews to select your accommodation or you select your restaurant wherever you want to go to travel. And not only that, if you go to some historical place using the smartphone, you can immediately consult Wikipedia to see something. Okay, so these are basically the enhancement of the previous things which are not possible with the normal phone, with the smartphone. So, and also of course the bill pay while you are on the move, nothing is affecting. So you can do any mobile commerce activities using your smartphone. Okay? So that's why nowadays a lot of vendors are encouraging you to use smartphone to do the shopping and other things. You can call your cab or vehicle in the Uber or whatever, all of those things. So these are the kind of enhancement the smartphone is doing. Okay? So what smartphone is retrieving? Okay? Retrieving some old desire. Okay? So that is the desire of connecting always connecting. So that is basically the process of socialization. Okay? So as you can see, the next generation is always talking using smartphone. They are always connected with their friends and other relatives or whatever, and they are always communicating. And not only that, they are always learning something using the smartphone while on the move. The example I gave is, suppose you went to some historical place and you want to consult the smartphone in order to know something special about that. Okay, so you are learning something. Okay, so suppose you want to, whenever you are on the move, you want to know something and you don't need to wait till you reach home. You can immediately do that. And of course, smartphone facilitate online anytime, anywhere learning also. So these are the kind of retrieval which is there while using smartphone. You can retrieve those desires because especially the socialization. If you see that Robert Putnam, when talking about this mass communication devices and the impact of that, American people are getting confined into their rooms. Okay, so they are only watching TV, no socialization. So that is basically mentioning in 1950s and 60s. There is a loss of social capital because they are not essentially interacting in a society. Now the internet came and with the World Wave 2.0, what happened is that people are started getting connected because getting connected is the basic desire, the psychological desire of people. Okay? So maybe now it's in the virtual world. Okay, and the virtual world we are pushing. Basically, now you can see your friends through the video conferencing and video call, etc. and you are getting connected. So you are always connected, and that's basically the human desire. So that's how it is increasing the social capital. Social capital, I mean to say that the capital which is generated out of interaction, the social interaction between the people. Okay? So that has a strain. Okay? So those things are the kind of retrieval which is happening. Now say that obsolescence. What are the things which got obsolete? Home phone is obsolete now. Okay. Desktop is very soon going to be obsolete nowadays. Even people are not using laptop, they are using large screen smartphone to do that unless it's very much needed. Okay, to do a larger work. For example, just to reply to a mail, nowadays we started using smartphone only, not going to laptop. Unless you have a work to write a paper or something, you don't consult laptop or desktop. So basically unification of device, so finally eventually after 10-15 years you can see the desktop is becoming EOD. And then standalone cameras. Cameras are no longer very attractive gadget to people. Then of course calculator and MP3 player and music players, all those things are now obsolete. And then comes the question of reversal. So one is basically compulsion and addiction that is there. So in the first picture, as I said, that this is half truth. So today's generation is, it's fair to say they are addicted to this device. And that essentially definitely has its own problem. Health is definitely another problem. And basically the social crime or cyber crime, that is basically too much depend on this smartphone kind of thing. Okay, so this is basically the tetrad and the way you can explain this. And now some interesting statistics I want to show in order to just show you the real impact. So it's the impact because basically if you look at the global mobile cellular subscription, this is like old data, 2010, but you can see the increasing rate, and even in 2010, 80 out of 100 people are owning some kind of mobile device. And 6 billion mobile cellular subscription, this is also old data, 2011, and as you can see that 6 billion mobile cellular subscription in 2020, everyone will be converted. Of course the 6 billion will increase, but also this mobile cellular subscription will increase to this black one, which is active mobile broadband subscription. Okay? So nobody will use after 10 years, this normal phone will not be available at all. What will be available is a smartphone, okay, with internet and net connectivity. Okay, so this trend is essentially seeing that the penetration, and as you can see here, this is 2013 data which talks about minutes and billions by platform. As you can see, 2010 desktop user is 416 billions of minutes. Okay. This remains the same, but you see the increase in the usage of smartphone and tablet 2010-2013. So, as you can see, the use of smartphone is increased, and this is the distribution by age. And now you can see that even the older people are started using smartphone or electronic mobile phone devices. This 2010-13 compared. It's not only the property of the younger generation. Okay? And this is some recent data of March 2015. So world population is 7.2 billion with 53% of urbanization. And out of that, 3 billion are active internet users, so which is 42% penetration. And the social media user is 2.1 billion, and mobile phone penetration is almost 51%, 2.6 billion. And active mobile social user is 1.7 billion, but this is rising. Okay. And if you see the daily social media activity, this is also interesting. Especially number of WhatsApp messages in 2015 is 30 billion. So these are some of the figures. So if you look at Digital India, you will see something interesting. Out of 1.2 billion Indian population, active internet user is 19%, and active social media user is 10% and mobile connection is 75%. And of course, the active mobile social media user is only 9% now, but it's getting even in remote villages. Okay, so for example, just a small example from my driver, who basically resides in a remote village of Madhubali. Okay, so there actually wherever he goes to his village, the connectivity is available. So he is having a smartphone. Okay, and there in the village, they know that using smartphone you can see YouTube, okay, and you can see even examination results. So they haven't seen computer; they are seeing smartphone as their first device. Okay, so new generation in villages, they are seeing mobile smartphone as their first device to connect to the global world. So as you can see, in India, the web traffic 31% is minus 10% the desktop web traffic, okay, it's reducing, but 60% is the share of web traffic by mobile phone. So that is essentially increasing. Okay. So if you look at the smartphone usage in India, the growth trend is 171 in 2015 to 382 million in 2016. So this 1 year is almost getting down. So, and the 3G subscription is also increasing. Okay. And so the question is that what people are doing with this, okay, with so many smartphones? Is it only for communication? So that's why it's not only for communication. They are doing a lot of things. Okay, with messaging, talk, email, visit website, social networking, playing games, download apps, camera, watch video, listen to music, chat, just tracking location, and of course visit website includes the e-commerce or the shopping activities which nowadays people are doing. So it is not only communication, but it is doing all other kinds of activities, okay, using this kind of smartphone. So that is essentially changing the shift in the communication paradigm. So with the communication device, so you are not only communicating, but you are directly, but also there is form of indirect communication. Okay. Shopping is also a kind of indirect communication, because when you are doing a shopping, taking a shopping decision, you are consulting your review of other users of that particular device, okay, of that particular product before taking a shopping decision. So this is a kind of indirectly consuming the contribution or communication of others. Okay, so basically smartphones are becoming new computing interface, and web is becoming increasingly social, and the channel is changing, and watching TV, magazine, books is slowly getting replaced by watching online, and what people do on the web is changing. Okay. So just I'll show you a video which talks about Vision 2020 by NTT Docomo. So this is an interesting video which essentially talks about how the world will look in 2020.
私には大好きなインドのお母さんがいる。3年前、インドでホームステイをした私に優しくしてくれたママグプタ。私は彼女の家にホームステイをしたことがある世界中のみんなのためにママグプタの部屋というバーチャルコミュニティを作った。
Passport. Are you going on a trip? Yes, I wish I could. But my doctor won't let me.
Using a government-supported mobile concierge service, Mama Gupta can renew her passport and carry out other procedures.
club. How's Grandma? Oh, she's a lot better. That's good.
Using a pendant-like camera and contact lens display, Amit communicates with Yuki via gaze control technology and simultaneous interpretation.
Hey, is that a pinwheel? I can show you how to make one with origami. Do you have paper? Okay.
Using communication bracelets equipped with tactile sensors, Amit and Yuki can synchronize their hand movements.
Now, a pinwheel. And if you fold it like this, see? A ship. Wow. That's so cool.
Using 3D spectacles with a retinal imaging display and accessory-like camera, Yuki communicates remotely with Emma, sensing her presence as if they were right next to each other.
でね、今夜モロッコのハッサンと約束してるんだけど、エマも来ない？リカルドも一緒にさ。オッケー。ねえ、エマってさ、何の仕事してるんだっけ？もったいないの仕事かな。もったいない？ Kort sagt så går det ut på å redusere avfall i verden. Ha det bra, Yuki. Vi ses. Ha det bra, Emma.
God morgon, Emma.
What?
Now starter möte.
Denne måten din strømbruker, inklusive hjemmende strøm, værkontrollert med et smart strømnett som overvåker energifordelingens balanse i samtid.
En global innføring av mobilsfærestatistikk kan bidra til å regulere bevegelsen i samfunnet og redusere CO2-utslipp på verdensbasis.
Using an advanced virtual conference system, large amounts of data are stored on the cloud and shared instantly with participants around the world.
Du har en avtale med Yuki. Felix gå til bilrommet.
Hassan?
Les étoiles sont magnifiques.
Oui, j'aimerais bien les montrer à Mama Gupta aussi.
Mais il fait nuit en Inde. Elle doit sûrement dormir.
Tu t'es justement entendu parler à Yuki des origines de l'univers.
Using a globally popularized online education system, Yuki and Hassan access databases worldwide via meta-search to explore the universe intuitively via augmented reality.
Au Maroc, on appelle cette galaxie la voie de la paille. Il y a une légende selon laquelle, quand on est sur le point de faire une bêtise, on la regarde et notre conscience nous arrête.
Au Japon, on dit la rivière du ciel et on fait un vœu quand on la regarde.
En Norvège, on l'appelle la Voie lactée. On regarde tous les mêmes étoiles. Mais suivant les pays, on interprète les choses différemment.
Au fait, Ricardo ne vient pas?
Si, il a dit qu'il viendrait. C'est bizarre. Ricardo?
Using an advanced GPS system, Ricardo updates his location and physical condition via the cloud and shares the information in real time with Emma.
Oh, on dirait qu'il a de la fièvre.
Pois é, estou me sentindo meio fraco.
Por que você deixou essa frase piorar?
Look
who's here.
Grandma, it's Mother's Day today.
Mama Gupta, this is Ricardo, my fiancé.
Hello, Ricardo. Congratulations, Emma.
みんな始めるよ。
Okay, so this is an extreme form of virtual connectivity and virtual community formation. Okay, but this is not an utopia because the technology is available. So maybe it's a dream. It's 2020 team of NG Docomo. And it's realizable. Google is already coming up with Google Glass. More or less towards that. And other devices also which is shown here is available. Integration is definitely needed to achieve this. Okay, so now let us see that how this new communication paradigm is actually affecting our lives. So as I said, the communication paradigm, if there is a shift in communication paradigm, it must have some profound impact on our everyday living. So this definitely should have impact on the business and the society at large. Okay? So just I'll spend a couple of minutes on that. Okay, so one is there are 5 aspects I'd like to cover here. Very briefly. One is growing involvement in social media. Second is the smartphone-enabled Internet of Things. Okay, the smartphone is just one example of that. Okay, then socially shared consumption, sharing economy and collaborative consumption, and citizens' participation in government. So I'll just highlight these 5 aspects just to see that how this mobile and communication technology is affecting our life and our society. So, how that social media is changing our world. So, social media is no longer communication with my friend, okay, using the social network, or writing stories in blog. Social media is becoming a platform where I can interact with, where any organization can interact with the organization's customers. So if you can look into the community, so it's basically conversation online, and using that conversation online, you can talk to a customer, to your donor, to volunteers, to employees, to investors, to critics, fans, competitions, and whoever having access to it. So as now everyone is started experiencing that it has a profound impact on business, because you are using different channels to express your opinions. For example, you went to a restaurant and you find that food is not good, you immediately go and complain in Zomato, saying the food is not good. You want to visit to a hotel and you definitely consult that particular hotel where the hotel is good or bad. So every company has now a presence in Facebook, because through that the company can interact with its customers. So that is why, and the entire business is now becoming customer centric, because customer now has a voice using the social media. So social media is no longer a platform for communicating with only friends, but also a platform for communicating with your customer, with your investors, or with somebody. So that is one aspect of it. Okay. Second aspect is basically the mobile phone, and the sensors on the mobile phone now enables us to interact with the object. Okay. So that's basically the Internet of Things which we are talking about. As you can see that mobile phones these days have a lot of sensors embedded in that. You have light sensors, you have proximity sensors, and that is whenever you just hold your mobile phone and detecting the proximity of the ear, the screen, the display gets off, okay, so that becomes a power. Okay, then you have camera, you have microphone, then you have GPS, compass, and accelerometer and gyroscope. So using these kind of sensors itself, you can the phone with the phone you can invent lot of applications. Okay, I'll come to that. For example, Internet of Things. Since Internet of Things is basically that every object can be integrated in a communication network, so that through your mobile phone you can access those objects. For example, GPS is the simplest example, and using GPS you can easily do the car sharing. These days we are tracking the location because we can call the car. The car also has a GPS. So GPS, using the GPS you can track the location of the car. This tracking the location of an object is one of the fundamental thing in Internet of Things. First you have to locate the object, and that is possible somewhere. Okay. There is one company which is using cell phone sensors to measure vibration and speed, and through that you can analyze the driver's characteristics. Okay? So this company is in Bangalore and they are working on that. And basically, for example, maybe Uber needs it because the driver characteristic, whether it is running fast or running slow or doing very jerky driving, etc., etc. And in USA, for example, this is important for the insurance also, insurance premium also. So based on the driver characteristic, the insurance premium can fluctuate. So I think there are several applications, and all are gradually getting connected to your mobile phone interface. So using mobile phone, you can control your home appliances, for example. Okay. So there is another company in Pune which is CardQ, which makes cards smarter using the Internet of Things concept, where you can track the fuel usage, battery status, speed pattern of various other patterns related to the card, and all information is now coming to your mobile phone. So, and there is a company called ShopSense. This is interesting. So, let me show you a small video on that.
This is the ordinary shopper. And this is the ShopSense experience. Introducing ShopSense Match. Mix and match clothes to see what goes well together before you try them out.
App can be on the mobile phone also. With the mobile phone you can do this matching and then do the purchase decision.
No more waiting in front of trial rooms, only to realize that what you picked doesn't match. Browse easily through the entire collection in the store by simply swiping and tapping on the large touchscreens.
Of course, the health monitoring actually is an important thing, especially for the elderly patient. If you have body area network kind of things which is interface with your mobile phone, it's also mentioned by Prof. Then you can easily track the health condition also through this mobile phone. And there is another Budweiser example with a body cup, means the cup fitted with a sensor, and if you, when you toast, automatically you get trains in the face. Okay. Next is the aspect is the socially shared consumption, and why people are, as I said, what people are doing with their mobile phone. They are not only communicating, they are essentially sharing their consumption behavior with their friends also. 91% say the consumer review at the number 1 aid in buying decision. Okay. So that means you are not only sharing your buying decision with your friend, but with someone who is unknown to you. Actually, when you see a review of a particular product, you don't see the review of your friend, you see the review of someone who has experience either good or bad with a particular product. 87% trust a friend's recommendation over critics' review, and 3 times more likely to trust peer opinion over advertising for purchasing decisions. So advertising has taken a new dimension, and now entire thing has become customer oriented. Okay? So as I said, that this friend meaning is not only your the conventional the friend in the conventional sense. I said that that means the entire world is your friend in the sense that some unknown person who is also using a particular product, you are trusting him rather than the advertisement of the company. So that's basically a new trend is coming, which is the collaborative consumption. It's basically the foundation of sharing economy. Okay? So collaborative consumption is a phenomenon where these days people don't want to possess or don't want to own something. They want access. So access is more important than possession. So from internet era to the social media age, and then you can see that it's a collaborative economy. So as you can see, in collaborative economy, if you need to travel, you can just with your smartphone application, you can arrange a car lift. Okay? So you can share a car. For example, I am driving from here to the Kolkata, and I have entered into this lift, okay, that I am willing to share with someone. Okay? So on my way, if someone wants to get a lift, so he can just stop me with some SMS or whatever, some communication. Because of GPS, I am trackable. Okay? So then I can share with him. Okay? So everybody need not have a car. Whenever I need a car, I can share the ride with someone. So Airbnb nowadays, everybody knows, because I have a house and I have a room to spare. Okay, so using Airbnb, I can rent that. Okay, and it's much cheaper than hotel. Okay. So Airbnb now it's worldwide. Wherever you want to go, you can consult Airbnb. There are private houses. Some portion of the houses you can use and stay as if you were staying in a hotel. So even in the funding, the credit card nowadays, people are not trusting on credit card, where basically trusting on the peer lending. Okay, so there is a community. Suppose I have some extra money, I want to give it for temporarily, give the loan to someone, and someone is consuming that and returning that. So that's basically the peer lending kind of thing, which is not cheaper. So that thing is getting popular. So Odesk is basically for hiring staff. Even for dining, suppose I'm staying alone and I'm basically this first started in France. So I'm staying alone and I want to spend the evening with someone. So I become a member of that. So I cook, say, Indian dishes and advertise there, and people come and as if instead of going to a restaurant, they come to my house and they eat and they pay. So temporarily, maybe once a week or once a month, even maybe once in 6 months, I can make this kind of offer, offering me. Okay. So there are a lot of these kind of activities where people are not, suppose this one, suppose for you have a cycle which you are not using, so you can put it there and someone who needs the cycle can use this. So essentially, as I said, the concept of sharing is increasingly becoming popular because of 3 factors: social, economic, and technological factors. which making this collaborative economic movement successful. Because first of all, if you see the social factor, 75% of today's generation, they say that they love to share physical object and space rather than owning them. Okay? Because you see that people have studied that the joy of ownership is temporary. Okay? Then it becomes burden. So as if we all can experience that, okay, I just purchased a dress, okay, maybe after 6 months or 1 year, I may not like it, okay, but still it is lying in my cupboard. So same thing is true with some, maybe some electronic gadgets which I want to replace, or I don't know more want. So when the joy of ownership goes, it's better to enjoy the joy of sharing. Okay, so give it to someone, okay, maybe with some money, or maybe without money. You can give that. So reduce the burden of ownership. And of course, the economic factor is very important, because in 2050 you can see that world population is increasing very rapidly, and if you essentially try to produce to that extent to satisfy all, and now if you see the consumer behavior, they're trying to consume a lot of things, okay, purchasing a lot of things, and if you want to sustain that purchase behavior, then a huge amount of wastage will occur. That's why they try to promote this kind of sharing culture. And that is possible because of the technology, because the smartphone is available. Because of that, you can get connected with other people and you can express your desire to share something. Okay? So that basically is the enabler. Okay, so sharing economy is basically too much, to avoid too much waste, and because of the recession, people say that the buying power is reduced. Okay? So instead of buying a lot of things, it's better if you can share something with some lower price. This concept are old. Second-hand garden purchase is an old concept. But now the technology is enabling us to integrate in a much simpler way with others who are actually willing to sell or purchase. So, and the social local mobile revolution means that, so we can, using the GPS, we can localize that, because no point in hiring request to hire something or to share something to staying in Bombay, for example. So I want to do some sharing activities within my locality, so which is now possible using within the GPS. Okay? So you can geotag your location and your neighboring locations through which you need to operate. And last is the citizen participation in governance. So nowadays we are also working on that, and maybe we'll hear something tomorrow on disaster management. Okay? So people are now using mobile phone and social media for emergency management, because if you have a mobile device and if you are in a disaster, you can quickly communicate using Twitter and other devices. So if you see the Red Cross survey, it says that 80% turn to social media after calling 911. So if there is an emergency, immediately people have a tendency to go to social media just to tweet and get something. And 74% expect requests for help via social media to be answered within an hour. Okay. So they know that if we post something in my Facebook or in Twitter, I can receive help earlier than actually the government. Okay. So that's why people have a desire, so whenever in disaster, just post it in social media. And since we have now smartphone accessible, it's now becoming much more easier to do that. Okay. And it's Haitian earthquake is a very it's a great example of using social media and using the tweets and wikis and web 2.0 style collaboration, other communication device, through which you can use social media to manage the Haitian earthquake disaster. Okay. Recently we have the Kathmandu, this Nepal earthquake, and you see that using the social media tools, these numbers are the local reports which is generated using social media. Okay. So this is geotagged. says, for example, if you see that there are 600, that means 600 small reports in the form of tweets or in the form of Facebook posts, etc., are there about that particular, from that particular location. So using that, this Kathmandu Living Labs is essentially doing this. So they are collecting all this information and displaying this. And this is about the emergency management. And there is another example of managing the social revolution using the social media tools. And Arab Spring is the greatest example of that, Middle East. And you can see in Arab Spring, this is called essentially Twitter revolution, because it's all started and it's all coordinated using the Twitter. So you see that there is a total revolution, there is a government overthrown, there is a civil war, and protest and governmental change, sustained civil disorder and government change, barring and most protested and related crisis outside Arab world. All this Arab Spring is essentially controlled, so to say, using the social media tools like Twitter and other. So these are some of the areas where our life and our existence, both in the business and societal dimension, is getting changed using the communication device. Okay. So before concluding, I want to show you another video from CAPSCON, which basically talking about the open world with network intelligence. This is the last portion of it.
Freedom. I think at the end of these 4 days that you'll come to conclude that the arc of history is a positive one, and it's towards openness. If you go back a few hundred years, all around the world it was a very closed society. It was agrarian, and the means of production and political system was called feudalism, and knowledge was concentrated in the church and the nobility. People didn't know about things. There was no concept of progress. You were born, you lived your life, and you died. But then Johannes Gutenberg came along with his great invention, and over time, the society opened up. People started to learn about things, and when they did, the institutions of feudal society appeared to be stalled or frozen or failing. It didn't make sense for the church to be responsible for medicine when people had knowledge. So we saw the Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther called the printing press God's highest act of grace. Creation of the corporation, science, the university, eventually the Industrial Revolution, and it was all good. But it came with a cost. And now once again, the technology genie is out of the bottle, but this time it's different. The printing press gave us access to the written word. The internet enables each of us to be a producer. The printing press gave us access to recorded knowledge. The internet gives us access not just to information and knowledge, but to the intelligence contained in the cranium of other people on a global basis. To me, this is not an information age. It's an age of networked intelligence. It's an age of vast promise. An age of collaboration where the boundaries of our organizations are changing, of transparency where sunlight is disinfecting civilization, an age of sharing and understanding the new power of the commons, and it's an age of empowerment and of freedom. Now, what I'd like to do is, to close, to share with you some research that I've been doing. I've tried to study all kinds of organizations to understand what the future might look like. But I've been studying nature recently. You know, bees come in swarms and fish come in schools, starlings in the area around Edinburgh, in the moors of England, come in something called a murmuration. And the murmuration refers to the murmuring of the wings of the birds. And throughout the day, the starlings are out over a 20-mile radius, sort of doing their starling thing. And at night, they come together and they create one of the most spectacular things in all of nature. And it's called a murmuration. And scientists that have studied this have said they've never seen an accident. Now, this thing has a function. It protects the birds. You can see on the right here, there's a predator being chased away by the collective power of the birds. Apparently, this is a frightening thing if you're a predator of starlings. And there's leadership, but there's no one leader. Now, is this some kind of fanciful analogy, or could we actually learn something from this? Well, the murmuration functions still core a number of principles, and they're basically the principles that I've described to you today. This is a huge collaboration. It's an openness. It's a sharing of all kinds of information, not just about location and trajectory and danger and so on, but about food sources. And there's a real sense of interdependence. The individual birds somehow understand that their interests are in the interests of the collective. Perhaps like we should understand that the business can't succeed in a world that's failing. Well, I look at this thing and I get a lot of hope. Think about the kids today in the Arab Spring, and you see something like this that's underway. And imagine, just consider this idea, if you would. What if we could connect ourselves in this world through a vast network of air and glass? Could we go beyond just sharing information and knowledge? Could we start to share our intelligence? Could we create some kind of collective intelligence that goes beyond an individual or a group or a team to create perhaps some kind of consciousness on a global basis? Well, if we could do this, we could attack some big problems in the world. And I look at this thing and I don't know, I get a lot of hope that maybe this smaller, networked, open world that our kids inherit might be a better one. And that this new age of networked intelligence could be an age of promise fulfilled and of peril unrequited. Let's do this. Thank you.